Uh, now my right ear's having issues, so I got an ear infection on both sides. That part I just got to deal with. The thing on the front of here, this is bullshit excuses. Straight up. If you got time to watch my videos, and you got time to comment, you have time to help turn it in. When you say that you're too broke, well, if you can get on the internet, you're not too broke to use your fucking voice. That's all I'm able to use right now is my voice. I'm not able to function well enough to do anything else. I don't have the materials or the tools or the money. I have plenty enough time, just not enough time with resources. I got another call from that 988 line this morning. Apparently, I looked at my phone and it showed me there was a missed call, so I'm calling them back. I suppose we should start with some evidence. Marcia Estrada. She diagnosed me with PTSD. She believes I'm on the autism spectrum, which causes difficulties in adapting to social settings. She had the most common symptoms of this disorder are anxiety, hypervigilance, and a feeling of impending doom. That's because we're abused and talked over, and then we're abused for speaking up and talked over some more. You can see where people's bias lies. By what point in the conversation did these so-called professionals stop acting professional and start getting defensive? They get defensive by acting stupid, like they don't know what I'm talking about, like they don't understand the English language, or like if they talk over the top of me so they don't hear anything I'm saying, that it means I didn't say anything. When they make it their turn to talk. So we'll call it 988 crisis line. You notice that the guy on the front of here, he said that he didn't have time. Also, he's taking care of his grandma, which is time consuming. Well, that's very true. But you know, if you speak up and you explain that problem, instead of making me try to get heard when they just call me mentally ill, instead of calling it in with me and saying, hey, I have spent some time on his channel. I've seen this stuff to be true. He is telling the truth. He also has communication difficulties that are being taken advantage of. If you can say that your grandma is being taken care of by you, that is important. When you say that you don't have any money or you don't have much money, that's all right. You can explain that. See, there's a lot of people who told me that they couldn't help because they didn't have any money or because they're in a different state. No, that's a fucking cop out. That is a cop out. If you have access to the internet and to see the evidence, and you have access to a telephone, you can make the calls with me. You can look at a lot of the evidence that's on here. Enough that when we call it in, you can say honestly that you've seen the evidence, I am telling the truth, and my life is at risk. I'm tired of being bullied into moving to a new town, and every town they protect child molesters and rapists. It's gross. A lot of people tell me they don't have time. They don't have time. Well, that's the thing about reaching out to me. If you don't have time, then don't reach out to me. Don't take the time to listen just to interrupt me and give me advice. Dude, I'm trying to tell you what the fuck is going on here, and you're busy not fucking listening because you want to give advice. A lot of people, a lot of these professionals, when I tell them that police officers tried diagnosing me with schizophrenia, they want to yell at me like I don't already know that police aren't allowed to do that. What they yell at me is if I'm lying to them about police doing it. Meanwhile, there's witnesses.
You've reached the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Para español, marque el número 2. To talk to the Veterans Crisis Line, press 1. To connect to support for... Your call is now being transferred to the Veterans Crisis Line. Your call will be recorded. Your call may be monitored for quality assurance purposes. During the silent transfer, you may hear beeps. Please stay on the line as your call is transferred to the next available VCL responder.
The Veterans and Military Crisis Line. This is Lisa. How can I help you?
Hello, my name is Sean, and I'm calling back because I missed a call from you guys. I was asleep.
Okay. Do you know who called you?
I don't, but I've got a couple of previous calls that they left messages on. And
Okay.
I can certainly play both of the messages for you. I just have to find the right phone. Sorry, my nose is clogged. I got an ear infection. I'm just not having a good day, but that's not what I'm calling
Well,
about.
that doesn't sound good.
It doesn't.
Just returning the call.
I'm trying to turn up the volume on the phone because I'm having problems hearing you. I got a piece of paper here from my mental health worker. Her name's Marcia Estrada. And she wrote, I have been seeing Sean Schwartz on a weekly basis for outpatient therapy since completing a pre-treatment assessment on October 18th, 2021. During this evaluation, Sean described symptoms he experienced on a regular basis. From the information he provided, I have diagnosed him with post-traumatic stress disorder. This comes from years of trauma and inconsistencies in a person's life, often starting as a young child. I also believe Sean to be on the autism spectrum, which causes difficulties in adapting to social situations. The most common symptoms of this disorder are anxiety, hypervigilance, and a feeling of impending doom. It does not appear Sean experiences any hallucinations or other psychosis. He does not meet the diagnostic criteria for schizophrenia. Sincerely, Marcia Estrada. God, now I'm whistling when I breathe. Hope I don't got whooping cough. Probably not.
Yeah, I hope not.
I read that for you just so that you know I'm not crazy, I'm overwhelmed. And that's the problem with PTSD, is that I'm easy to overwhelm, and especially when there's groups of people that do it. I did get to show Marcia Estrada some of the abuse that I'm going through, but we weren't able to get anything started as far as turning in my predators. When crimes are committed against me, mandated reporters are supposed to turn it in right away. And every time I move to a new area and have to start calling mandated reporters, they don't do anything right away. They pawn me off onto others, and then they play the jurisdiction game, and then they start playing stupid, and then they start pretending that they're being victimized because I told the truth. And that's just not cool.
Okay.
I'm looking for the... Go ahead.
You had a message to give us a call back. Are you having any current thoughts of suicide?
Ma'am, I'm being victimized and bullied to suicide. It is entirely different. I'm not attempting to commit suicide, but I have a lot of people who try to twist literally anything I say into me trying to commit suicide. That way they don't have to do their jobs. They can lock me up and have me called mentally ill again. Possibly have me injected with medications that have killed people and medications that I am highly allergic to.
That's scary.
Not your fault.
Have you ever had thoughts of suicide, or ever?
Well, can we not focus on the suicide thing here, and could we focus on the abuse? I know that you guys are a suicide line.
Make sure you're currently safe. Yes,
I'm not safe,
exactly.
but I'm not trying to hurt myself. It's other people that hurt me. And I have a lot of recordings of that. I also have recording after recording of me going to exactly the people that I'm supposed to go to, the professionals that I'm supposed to go to as an at-risk and disabled adult. But I have to go alone, so I get blown off by every single service. They pretend that I have the ability to do these things by myself. Also, a lot of people think that going to the library is a good idea. It's not. I've been targeted at the library. I've been targeted at Tillamook Sporting Goods. Ma'am, I get targeted for abuse everywhere I go.
How long has this been going on?
Since my best friend got shot in the head in Thornton, Colorado in December of 2017.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yes, ma'am. I'm blackballed by the community, and that includes a lot of the local businesses and also all of the emergency services because it's a small town. They also keep trying to illegally push housing. They know that it takes 2 years to get housing, and that their job as a mandated reporter when somebody is being abused needs to be done right away. None of them did their jobs right away or at all, and I literally had to go back to them for them to argue with me to try to make any excuse why it's not their job to do their job as a mandated reporter. Even though I get disability money for being disabled, I have to deal with Adult Protective Services people. It's a place called Northwest Senior and Disability Services and another one called Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Both of them are taking advantage of victims, and instead of doing any sort of mandated reporting or case management, they're just setting us up for therapy sessions 30 days away that they bill the state for.
Okay.
As a result, I've been through over a year of abuse now here in Tillamook, Oregon, and been through a year of basically being run around in circles. I'm referred by mandated reporters to drug addicts, and I've got it recorded. Go ahead.
What is the abuse specifically? What are you saying? What specifically happened?
Well, I have officers pretty much everywhere I go who lie to the general public and claim that I'm some sort of a psycho killer, or claim that I'm wanted in questioning for a murder and all sorts of crap like that.
Well, that's pretty severe.
Well, my best friend got her
Yeah.
brains blown out in 2017. The guy who killed her is in prison for
Yeah.
it. But police officers, when you try to turn them in, they're, first of all, every police officer and every 911 operator, as soon as they find out that you're trying to turn in a police officer for misconduct and for physically assaults or threatening your life or intimidating witnesses, they start telling you to go to other places. You can't turn it in there. The call that I got yesterday, the most recent one, they told me to call either 211 or 988 or 911. The problem is when I make 911 calls, like I said, I get blown off. Also, I'm autistic, so when I'm stuck in public and I don't have the ability to defragment from a stressful situation, I'm stuck feeling that anxiety, and I know that more things are going to happen until I can find a safe place to process it. I'm expected to be perfect at all points in time in a world full of imperfect people.
Yep. That's the definition of people. Imperfect.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I've got literally thousands of recordings and screenshots of abuse against me and other at-risk adults, and also I have recorded the inappropriate responses of first responders. And, it's my life is at risk and it's not taken seriously. The assaults that I endure, most of them I just have to take and they have to go unreported because I don't know the name of the person. It's just some random asshole. But sometimes it's somebody who was there in connection with an assault that I had to endure or that somebody else had to endure who was at risk. But Adult Protective Services and Child Protective Services here in Tillamook all goes to a guy named Jeff Linneman, and they're fleecing the American public for their tax dollars. They're not doing their jobs for at-risk and disabled adults on the streets. They're trying to push just the housing thing when they're supposed to be doing something as mandated reporters. They're also lying to us about what the mandated reporter laws are because they just don't want to do their jobs. They don't want to turn in their coworkers. They recently made it from a $600 fine to a $2,000 fine for not doing their jobs as mandated reporters. So that's a lot of incentive for them not to admit that they did something wrong. And as a result, since I tried to turn them in and I've had to do so publicly, they've been able to retaliate against me repeatedly, abusing the law to do so. Everybody says it's not their job,
You have a
Oh,
lot on your plate, don't you?
I do. I found the
You
recording
struggle
from
with a
last night.
lot.
I was arrested for calling 911 to turn in abuse again. I'm abused often, and I record the abuse, the abusive situation, and the threats against my life. Here's one of the ladies that called me yesterday.
Sean, message from develop veterans crisis line. If you feel you need to talk, or if you find yourself in crisis, give us a call back at 988 pressing 1 for veteran, or you can call your local crisis line 211, or you can call 911 to seek further assistance. Thank you.
211 refuses to take any information as far as names or anything like that. They just write down, they'll only allow me to tell them a generalization of the situations before they start bombarding me with those questions. Mandated reporters are mandated reporters even if someone is being abused. If somebody is abused to the point that they want their life to end, it's not okay to punish them by sending them to a mental hospital or having the police come and get them and send them to a mental hospital. That's not help. That discredits the victim and makes it impossible for them to put their predator away. It allows their predator access to them again and again and again and makes them look like they're the villain, like there's some sort of crybaby who's making stuff up. And that's hurtful. Not just hurtful emotionally, I mean, that literally gets us killed.
Yeah.
Now, because I'm a male, it's extremely difficult for me to get hurt as a victim, which is why, as a victim, I have to be afraid to come forward. I'm more likely to be talked over and sent to another service. The officer here in specific who started the harassment and the bullying, his name is Officer Tony Lothman, Lothman. And there's also a 14-year-old girl here who was assaulted by a deputy in Tillamook named Deputy Reeves, Mike Reeves.
Oh, that's a shame.
I'm telling you these things.
Veteran?
No, ma'am. And I explained that to the other two ladies. They told me that because of the PTSD to call back the Veterans Lifeline instead of the other 988s since I had such troubles with the other ones. I did try to get into the military.
Welcome to call us. I just had some resources, but they're for veterans, so that's why I wanted to know.
I'm not. Yeah. I'm not after the resources at this point. What I'm after is making sure that I tell somebody who's a mandated reporter who my predators are and what they're doing. Mike Reeves, after assaulting that 14-year-old girl, I was making a YouTube video when I pulled into the Safeway parking lot and saw the ordeal unfold.
Mm-hmm.
He's also been...
And then you put it on YouTube?
I did put it on YouTube.
Did anything come of that?
No, ma'am. I'm a well-hated individual because of the death of Natalie Bollinger in 2017. She was a heroin addict that I helped out when she was suicidal. And she helped me out too when I was suicidal. But a lot of people got involved that are predators, a lot of drug addicts, a lot of her family are drug addicts, and her ex-boyfriends, and they were highly abusive to her. But when she realized that she'd get a lot of sympathy, that's when things changed, and it went from just me being abused as if I was a stalker to, like, seriously, a lot of people coming and hurting me. And, you know, I was able to get my disability money coming in because I am disabled. I was able to get into an assisted living facility. But also, instead of cops doing their jobs or my therapist doing their jobs about abuse, they wanted to send me to the Front Range of Colorado. It turned out Natalie had moved to Colorado. I don't know what
that is.
The Front Range of the mountains in Colorado.
I'm sorry?
The Front Range of the mountains in Colorado are where most of the major cities are. In Nebraska, you know, there's not much services, especially not for autism. And I needed an advocate to help me to turn in the abuse so I wouldn't get talked over and pushed in the direction of housing over and over and over again. It takes years to get housing. So mandated reporters need to stop pushing housing on people when they're trying to turn in abuse. When they're trying to turn in their abusers and the name of their abusers and what their abusers did, we're repeatedly interrupted to be asked if we're wanting to harm ourselves or others. No, we're calling you because we're being harmed. And then we're told, have you tried this? Have you tried that? We're trying to turn in the crimes that happened and the details. A mandated reporter who doesn't give any details in their report or doesn't give a report or makes excuses not to do a report because it takes time, that harms the victims. That literally gets us killed because the report is literally never made. It's never made appropriately, and as a result of it never being made appropriately, the victim has to take the abuse over and over until they are either killed or they have to literally kill somebody to protect themselves. I don't carry firearms, and I don't believe in killing others. So instead of killing people, I post up the abuse on the internet and try to get help there, because making call after call after call to be pushed at housing doesn't help. Once I'm in housing, that doesn't mean that people are going to stop victimizing me.
Or do you have a place to live now?
No, I don't. I was victimized out of it by the Chapel Sheriff's Department.
Where are you staying?
In my vehicle in Tillamook, Oregon. I'm too broke to leave. Plus, they keep tying me up in court. They wanted to bully me into being a resident by a whole bunch of different agencies pretended that I had to be a resident in order for me to turn in crimes in Oregon. Then they're telling me, even though there were crimes that were committed against me in Multnomah County and Clatsop County, I can't turn those in as a disabled person because I live in Tillamook County. So I have to become a resident of one of those two counties to turn in the abuse in those two counties. Meanwhile, they're all run by Jeff Linneman, who isn't going to do his job. He's as crooked as they come, and he's in charge of Portland, for Christ's sake.
Hmm.
Yeah. Instead of it sending us to Adult Protective Services, we're sent to private companies like Northwest Senior and Disability Services, where they pretend that they're not mandated reporters. When I go to them and I start telling them about the crimes and how we need to turn them in, they all want to do the same thing. Are you thinking about killing yourself or others? And, oh, we can't provide you with a room, and if we allow you to be in a room to work on your stuff, we're going to have someone come in and talk to you the whole time so that you can't focus on what you're doing. Meanwhile, I'm autistic and I'm in a state of crisis, and a state of crisis is over abuse. That's the number one issue with calling yourselves a crisis line, is that if somebody's in a crisis, it's probably because they're being abused or because they're cut off from their friends and loved ones. A lot of people use the excuse that they're in a different state. Now, I tried to turn in the abuse when I was in Colorado, and I was victimized out of Colorado. I tried to turn in the abuse when I was in Virginia, but I was victimized out of Virginia. Same thing in Nebraska. This isn't okay. And every step of the way, I've tried to turn in the abuse and the number of people who are harming me. And I'm expected to be able to do this without any sort of advocacy. I'm expected to teach myself how to do things that are difficult for me to do. And I have to do this in a state of crisis while stuck in public.
Yeah, that's why it's best to get resources from Lifeline, because you could probably benefit like from a social worker that can help you navigate.
Yes, but they have to actually show up. They have to actually assign one, and that person has to actually do their job. And the problem is, even if they do assign somebody, the people that they have assigned, I have evidence that they're not doing that job. What they're interested in doing is only having me come back to therapy over and over and over again so that they can bill me. The APS here is also a private business. Both of the businesses, TFCC, that's Tillamook Family Counseling Center, as well as the Northwest Senior and Disability Center, both of them get paid money for supposing to do the job that Adult Protective Services is doing. Instead, they're screening out people who are homeless and disabled because nobody cares about them, and it's easy to make a profit off of us by having us come back for therapy over and over again. I've had referrals to TFCC more than once about them needing to do case management. What I need is people to do their jobs as mandated reporters. I need help turning in Mike Reeves, and I need help turning in Lothman. I've also got multiple witnesses. The problem is I can't process evidence. It's easy for me to record things. It's just not easy for me to keep everything charged. I live in a car, and my physical abilities prevent me from carrying the evidence in and out of the library every day. My body's like jello. Go ahead.
Are you referring that VCL, like that I'm a mandated reporter?
Do what?
Are you saying that I'm a mandated reporter?
I've asked on multiple occasions about if the people at 988 are mandated reporters, and they are. That's why they ask the question is of if we're trying to harm ourselves or others. But the thing is, the first question that should have been asked is, are you being harmed and are you safe? And no, I'm not. I'm not safe from others.
It's hard to get every question, and yeah, when we ask that, and you did exactly what you should do. No, I'm not suicidal, but I'm in danger.
Exactly. And the thing is that all these places, they know that even though I'm disabled and I can't defend myself, and I should explain to you, I stutter really bad. The more nervous I am, the worse it is. And when you've got a predator in law enforcement and you're trying to turn them in and they're allowed to come and bully you and harass you, and if you try to turn them in too much, they'll literally arrest you for calling 911 about the safety issue.
Oh,
I'm being forced to go to
yeah,
drug
that's
addicts for
kind of,
help. Mandated reporters have literally pushed me onto drug addicts for help.
well, you're not a senior citizen, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm only 42.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You're trying to fill out all the stuff on your checklist while still trying to listen. And I want to thank you for both listening and for trying to fill out that checklist, because you are doing your job by doing that.
I'm not filling anything out. I'm just heard you say something about being at a senior center.
I wasn't at a senior center. I was at an assisted living place in Chapel, Nebraska, twice. Once before Natalie's death, and still mandated reporters wouldn't do their job, and I was being abused there at the assisted living. And then once after Natalie's death, I was able to get back in. Financial abuse, but also they weren't repairing any of the stuff in the housing units. And when I was abused in Chapel, Nebraska, and tried to turn it in there, as far as the abuse goes to the people there, I was blown off and ignored. They told me to go to the police, and I had to go to the police alone, and the police blew me off. Then the police sent me eventually to other therapists and so on and so forth. That's always their go-to when you're a poor white guy in western Nebraska, or really anywhere in America. If you're poor, you're pawned off. You're not as important. You're not treated like you're as important. I have severely mentally messed up people who take a lot of drugs at the resource centers that I'm sent to for help. And most of these places, especially with the drug epidemic here and with the real big push to get the fentanyl off the streets and all that, you know, there's a lot of money in having these drug addicts go through your clinic over and over and over again. And in order to maximize the profits, what they're doing is they're setting it up so that it's a 50-minute therapy session, and then 10 minutes in between therapy sessions, and then another 50-minute therapy session. Doing their jobs as a mandated reporter may take literally all day long, but they're not willing to spend that time.
But were you on drugs?
No.
Okay. That's what I thought you said, but...
They make a profit if we're on drugs, because there's a lot of money in drug treatment. They send us to what's called a dual diagnosis clinic, where you have what's called comorbid conditions.
You didn't use drugs?
Do what?
But you didn't use drugs? Or
no,
I
do not use drugs.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that they want you to be a drug user, and those people get the priority, but they're not getting the help either. The problem is that, let's say you have somebody that's not on drugs and somebody that is on drugs, and you're going to get an extra $1,000 every 6 months or every quarter or whatever. You're going to get an extra $1,000 by the drug treatment money that the state's giving out if that person is on drugs, or if they're in drug treatment. So you try to push everybody through as a drug addict. The only quote-unquote drug that I use that's not cigarettes or coffee, I do smoke marijuana once in a while, and that's specifically because of the dual diagnosis clinics having requirements like that, and the fact that I'm stuck homeless. They're not going to trust anybody who's a square. I'm not willing to drink. I quit in 2001, and I'm not willing to do any heavy drugs. I don't even want to smoke pot. It gives me anxiety. I'm afraid I'll get in trouble because I smoke pot, you know? I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Wait, you do smoke pot?
I have smoked pot. I don't smoke pot regularly or every day or anything like that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that these people are trying to pretend that I'm a druggie, and I'm not. They're trying to pretend that I'm, you know, on methamphetamines or things like that in other places. A lot of my predators do that. Most of my predators have been to jail or prison for actually doing drugs, and I literally never have. I don't do drugs. Also, most of them have been to jail or prison for child abuse, and I've never been charged with child abuse or any form of it. I've never been charged with a sex crime, and I've never been charged with a hate crime.
Have you ever committed any of those crimes?
Oh, fuck no.
Okay. Because,
I grew up getting raped and molested.
Doesn't mean they've been
I grew up being
what?
raped and molested, and I have been sexually assaulted on multiple occasions since Natalie's death.
Awful. I'm sorry to hear that.
On one of those occasions, 6 staff members in Lincoln Correction Center sexually assaulted me while initiating what's called a use of force. Basically, they bully you and harass you and intimidate you and refuse you your rights. The lady that I had to turn crimes into there, her name was Sarah Nelson. She's now in prison for sexual assault against inmates. I also had to try to turn it into Sergeant Michelle Destini, who is in prison for sexual assault against inmates. You can look both of those names up. There's also Garden County Sheriff Michelle Quinn. Now, this is a thing about Nebraska. They have what's called the, hold on a second, I want to get this right, the County Safe Keep Program. Where basically, if your county is small and they don't have the facilities to hold you, they can have you shipped to another jurisdiction, and they can have another jurisdiction bully you.
Yeah.
And then they play this jurisdiction game where you can't turn in any of the officers because you're always in a different jurisdiction, and you're trying to turn them into the wrong jurisdiction, and they're shipping you around from one place to another. And the whole time you're trying to turn stuff in, and you're having guards that are playing head games with you, and like it's not right. It's completely evil. It's the most inhumane treatment that a person can go through. It's worse than being raped, and as a rape victim, I can say that. I have to deal with a lot of hate crimes everywhere I go. Natalie Bollinger getting shot in the head. It's still all over the internet. People still make new Natalie Bollinger stuff every week. It's a very popular true crime thing, and that's one of the things that makes it so easy to railroad me, is that I'm never allowed to defend myself because of the mentally ill tag. I have a stuttering problem, and that's preyed on. I'm also stuck in public, and that's preyed on. I also have to call while I'm in a state of...
going on.
I do have a lot going on.
See why you would have stress.
Now, as far as the abuse...
What are your plans? What are your plans for the rest of the evening?
Well,
I don't know what time it is. You're on the West Coast, correct?
Yes, ma'am. My plans were to call you guys up and inform you of the safety issues and that my life is at risk from police officers here. They're also doing everything that they can to try to hem me up for literally any little qualm or beef that they have. They literally arrested me yesterday for calling 911, and that's not okay.
Do you have any family or
no, ma'am, and that's the point, is that I don't have any family or friends to do that. That's why I'm sent to Tillamook Family Counseling Center and TCCHC and Northwest Senior and Disability Center. It's why I'm told that I need to go to drug addicts.
That's the one you said that I thought, are you a senior? Whatever one you just said.
Northwest Senior and Disability Services. I'm disabled.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm stuck in public and I have autism.
Because you have a diagnosis of autism, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I also have physical diagnoses. I have physical disabilities as well. Like because of the assault by Officer Waylon Lolatai after Natalie was killed. I can write, but it hurts really bad. I have difficulties holding a pen or a pencil. It takes forever to do it. I don't have a safe place to do it. And then people keep wanting to push me into housing as a safe place, knowing that it takes more than 2 years to get into housing here. Now, as mandated reporters, the crimes against us need to be turned in right away. If they're not turned in right away, it allows our predators more opportunity to get away, as well as the opportunity to retaliate against us. With mandated reporters wanting to repeatedly push the housing thing, I have to record publicly so that I can show that I'm making the effort.
I hope you're getting help for all that. all
Do
of
what?
that. And I hope you get a home soon. I hope you're getting help for everything, and I hope that you get a home to live in soon.
Me too, but I'm calling you
living
because
in
my life
car.
is at risk right now at this very moment. The only thing that keeps me safe is the fact that I record, and people are afraid that if they harm me, they'll be recorded doing it. But I've got a
Okay.
lot of recordings
Oh.
of harm against me because there's a lot of people that don't care.
But the thing is, I would call the police to help you, and you're saying it's the police that are harming you.
The
Correct?
police and the general public, as well as a lot of the drug addicts
Right.
that are homeless. A lot of these people are angry that they were recorded, and they retaliate for it.
Right. So I wouldn't call the police if they're the ones that are abusing you. And I highly suggest get out of the drug area.
Ma'am, this is the United States. I'm not choosing to live in a drug area. The United States is full of drugs. When they send me to services like TFCC, I go to TFCC. TFCC has a bunch of druggies that go there. They're the priority. A lot of them are locals. It's not that I'm going to drug areas, it's that I am sent to drug areas. And by being sent to drug areas, I end up knowing druggies because they see me going to those same places. And then they come and see me on the streets and they want to come up and talk to me. I have to be nice to them so they don't throw a tantrum. If they're fucked up on drugs or alcohol, I have to worry about telling them no because they'll throw a tantrum at me and possibly vandalize my vehicle or the local businesses.
I didn't mean to get you upset.
Oh, I'm not upset. I'm trying to explain the situation to you. I am upset, but not with you.
Okay.
I'm trying to make sure that I try to state it in a clear and concise way, in a way in which it does convey the seriousness of the situation without me, screaming at the top of my lungs, God damn it, these motherfuckers keep doing this fucking shit, keep goddamn calling me the N-word and fucking threatening to kill me. And, if I do that, a lot of people, they shut their ears off immediately. But if I talk too calmly and too nicely, do what?
Are you black?
I have African American in my history, but no, I'm not black. I'm a Russian, German, Hebrew descent for the most part. So mostly I just look like a Jew.
Okay.
And I get called a lot of anti-Semitic stuff too. I also get called a homosexual as people's excuse to hurt me, or they call me a murderer, or they call me a rapist, or they call me a child molester. And, they're just looking for an excuse to harm me.
Oh, that's awful.
But while they're screaming that stuff, they believe that justifies them hitting me in the face or popping my tires or smashing my windows or any number of crimes that have happened.
Oh my gosh. Sounds awful.
Thank goodness the car's on the window on my car. That's not somebody else who broke it. It did break under suspicious circumstances, but the point here is that my life is at risk, and you're even telling me, that you can't go to the police because it's a safety issue, and I agree with you fully on that. But also, you're one of the places I was told to call. Go ahead.
I said, you're the one that said that it's the police.
Well, you were saying that who you would call is the police, but that if it's unsafe, that you wouldn't do that. And I get that. I'm not trying to misquote you there. I just can't remember your exact words. But
yeah, of course. No, not a problem.
Obviously, with there being a conflict of interest there, and me having to repeatedly turn them into themselves, they know that I'm trying to turn them in. So that only allows my predators to do exactly what they've been doing all along. As soon as they know that I'm trying to turn them in, they start taking steps to hide it and to bully me for trying to turn them in, even if that means abusing the law to have me arrested and locked up. I'm not allowed to curse, but other people are allowed to curse at me. I'm not allowed to speak out about how violence is wrong, or people are going to grossly reinterpret it to claim that I'm threatening to kill people. And then when people are actually threatening to kill me, the police will help them to get a protection order. I've even been arrested to prevent me from being able to go to court. Now, I've only been allowed to go to court over one of these protection orders and all this, literally since before Natalie was killed. Natalie, that was the first protection order I ever got. It wasn't served properly. I was bullied by the officer who showed up. It was entirely improper. Plus, the way they served it, every part of it was illegal. Plus, her lack
And
of any.
protection orders aren't always bad because sometimes people need to be separated. So
I agree, but in this
sometimes it's a
particular
good thing
case,
to be
we were
separated.
separated. I drove 1,700 miles to get away from her. What I couldn't get away from
Wow.
is her playing victim on telephone to my friends in Boulder.
Oh, so you went from Boulder to
I went from
Portland
Boulder
or
to
Oregon?
Chesapeake, Virginia to see.
Tillamook.
No, I went from
Tillamook.
Boulder. No. Stop trying to guess. I'm telling you what happened. No, it wasn't Boulder to Tillamook. I knew Natalie
Oh,
from Boulder.
no. I mean, you're in Tillamook now,
I
correct?
am in Tillamook now. Yes, ma'am. For the
Yeah.
last 7 years, I've been bullied everywhere I've went. I've moved over 50 times. Local communities bully me when I try to turn in cops. See, cops tell people that I'm wanted for murder, that I'm doing drugs, all sorts of stuff like that. No, I'm not. I'm not doing drugs. And, you know, when you wanted to push that whole pot, doing drugs, doing drugs, that's annoying as shit. And it's also victim blaming and victim shaming. No, I'm not a druggie. No, I'm not doing pot. No, I'm not smoking pot at this moment. No, I am not so addicted to pot that every moment of the day I
Sorry
think
you
about pot
feel
and have
that
to
way.
smoke pot.
Because I don't know things unless
Right.
I ask
And
or
and that's
clarify.
the part that bugged me wasn't the fact that you asked, it's the fact that I answered and you asked several more times. That's scary to me because it makes it
That's
feel like I'm being
clarification.
badgered at that point, and that's why I tell you guys not to tell you that you're bad people, but so that you're aware. If you're aware of it, then it means that you can change that behavior and be less scary to the next guy.
Okay. All right. So what are you going to do when we get off the phone?
I don't know, ma'am. That's the thing, is that these things do need to be turned in, and Adult Protective Services needs to know the names and the dates of these instances. And it needs to be known that I did try time and again to turn this in. I can't do any of the paper stuff out here while I am constantly looking over my shoulders. I am in a constant state of fear. And just because I'm able to
Yeah, and
mask,
that's what I mean. Like, you, because I don't have the resources for you that you could use.
well,
But
you could
the
take the
Lifeline
details so
does.
that
The
you can take the
civilian line
details
would.
of who and when so that you could turn that in as a mandated reporter.
I can't. There's nothing I'm hearing that I'm obligated to do.
Abuse against an at-risk adult is not an obligation to turn in.
What I'm hearing isn't reportable.
Assaults against me and threats against my life are not reportable. Taking advantage of an at-risk adult is not reportable.
They are at the time when it happens, yeah.
And I tried to turn it in when it happened, and I was abused even more. I've literally been abused here in Tillamook for over a year. The crimes keep happening. That's why I keep calling it in and trying to turn them in, and why I keep getting bullied. If I try to turn it in right away, I get told that it's not a crime. Or I'm told, hey, you know what, you need to record it. If I record it, I'm told, hey, you weren't able to record the very beginning of it, so it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, anyone can pretend like I might hurt them and have me harmed and arrested. What I'm telling you is all stuff that you are able to turn in. It is all abuse against an at-risk adult.
And this is why you need the resources that the Lifeline would have for you.
And the Lifeline has done the same thing that you've done, is send me, ma'am, please stop talking over me. You're telling me about advocacy, and I'm trying to tell you about the places I've already gone for advocacy, and that I did call 211 about advocacy. I did that already. I've done this over and over again. I went to Tillamook Family Counseling Center. They didn't do any sort of advocacy. I went to Northwest Senior and Disability Centers. I went to CARE. I went to Tides of Change. I went to all of the places that are supposed to advocate. I also called the Autism Society, and the autism place that is supposed to be here in Tillamook hasn't gotten back in contact with their main office in 5 years, and their phone call or their messaging doesn't answer. Are you there still? Are you still there? Hello?
Hello.
I was just wanting to make sure that you were still there.
Here.
I was trying to tell you details of what was going on and the crimes that were committed.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I think I've heard them now. We've been talking for quite a while.
ma'am, you
And I
kept
think
on
I
talking to me
got
about
them.
housing and changing the subject to housing. And did you write down the names of the people that harmed me or any of the things that they did? Did you get any details about any of those crimes?
No, sir.
Well, you're not going to be able to give a very good report as a mandated reporter or be able to make a very good decision over whether or not what was done to me is reportable if you didn't hear any details.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to be rude or inconsiderate. I'm saying that I'm scared because this is nearly every phone call that I make now.
Okay.
Now, would it please be all right if I collected myself because I'm a little bit scared and then call back and talk to you again and actually make my reports, please?
I would suggest that you contact not the veterans line, but the civilian line. So
I tried those first and they were way worse. That's why the two ladies that I spoke with before on the Veterans Crisis Line told me that even though I'm not a veteran, that since the other two crisis lines didn't treat me very well, to call the Veterans Crisis Line.
Yeah, you can call and talk to us. Absolutely, we can talk with you, help you with some coping skills. But as far as resources, we don't have them.
The resource that I need is a mandated reporter to take the details and turn them in.
Has anyone done that on this line for you?
No, ma'am.
Why is that?
Because they're too busy trying to send me to other resources, just like all the other resources do when I call them, trying to tell me about housing, Northwest Senior and Disability Services, and TFCC. And they end up trying to either conference call and then hanging up, or they try to transfer me to a place and end up hanging up. Most of the time, the biggest thing after being talked over and saying, hey, I need you to actually do your job as a mandated reporter, then they try to pawn me off on the places that I'm trying to turn in. Instead of writing down details, they say, oh, well, you call this place and you leave a message. We'll get you in contact with them. I'll make the call and then you can do it. And it's always that. It's always passing the buck to someone else. It's always each of these places starting off with do you want to hurt yourself or others? Do you want to hurt yourself or others? Do you have any thoughts of suicide?
That's our job, sir.
I'm well aware of that. That's part of your jobs. Part of your jobs. And you're absolutely right for doing that. But the first question that all of you should be asking is anyone harming you? Are you in a safe place?
I've heard you say that.
So I'd like to be able to collect myself now that I'm overwhelmed, and I'm not mad at you for it. I'm not hateful or anything. It'll take me a bit to collect my thoughts and everything that I was going to say. As an autistic person, I have to rehearse what I'm going to say linearly, otherwise I'm easy to talk over. And that's one of the major issues, is that I'm just too easy to talk over. Also, I'm in a desperate situation.
I feel like you had done all the talking, and I felt like I wanted to tell you what is probably the best route for you.
And that's the thing about me doing the talking that I've done, is that I'm trying to tell you the situation that I'm in, and that makes you better able to make a decision. But when I tell you that I've already
Okay.
called the places you're trying to refer me to, what I'm trying to get
Of
you to
legal
understand
advocacy,
is what I'm trying to get you to, I've already called them.
pro bono.
That there is, ma'am, pro bono when you're a homeless person is a myth. The closest you get to pro
Okay.
bono is a public defender.
Okay. And if you were a veteran, we have a national call center for veterans. But I'm sure there is a civilian one, if that's,
And that's the problem, is that I'm trying to tell you details of crimes, and you're still trying to pawn me off on someone else. This is literally what pushes people to commit suicide. This is literally how to push someone to commit suicide.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm clearly not doing you any good. It sounds like I'm doing you more harm than good. So, yes, you are welcome to call back.
I can't hear you very well.
I said you are welcome to call back if you feel like you're in crisis, because we are here 24/7. Okay?
I'm not being heard. I will call back. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
$49-minute call. 49 minutes of wasted time. Did she take any details? No, she was busy trying to pawn me off. That's what they always do. Mandated reporters don't want to do their job. They talk over you, don't take details, refuse to take details, pretend that the things that you try to turn in are not crimes. They talk over you, so without those details, they get to pretend that you're not turning in crimes. They won't take the names or the dates. They don't write it down. Being assaulted at a hospital is a crime. It is mandated reporter business. You're not getting this? They don't want to do their jobs, and they try to put it on me that they're not doing their jobs. It's my fault that they're not doing their jobs. I'm not going through 2 years of getting housing. That's what they all want to pawn on me, isn't it? You know, a lot of these services that they claimed I was going to get, they claimed it and claimed it and claimed it and claimed it up until the day it was time to deliver, and they didn't deliver. Instead, they played victim and utilized the cops to have me harmed. This lady at 988 Veterans Lifeline, and she was useless as tits on a goddamn board. But she was nice. At least she was nice, and at least she did listen a bit, but you also got to hear the checklist. The checklist that they all fucking go through. All she wanted to do was get off the phone so she didn't have to do her job. All she wanted to do was talk over me so she couldn't get details. All she wanted to do was change the subject. At least she didn't make everything about her, but she made a lot of it about her. Now, didn't she? And that's just not appropriate. Digging for any excuse not to do her job. Oh.